Do you want to live more sustainably but aren't sure where to start or how it fits in with your everyday living? The ReNewy Living Podcast simplifies sustainability so you can feel confident to take small, meaningful actions that fit into your lifestyle. Based on the lands of the Awabakal and Worimi people in Newcastle, Australia, you'll learn how to live lighter on our planet through practical ideas, stories from like-minded people, and examples of businesses doing great things. With an open heart and mind, join me, Marty Lee, as we explore how to consume less, build stronger community connections, and thrive in your neighbourhood, wherever you call home. Welcome to the ReNewy Living Podcast. Hello, I'm Marty Lee and welcome to the ReNewy Living Podcast. If you have a baby, a toddler or preschool-aged kids, I wonder if you feel your house has been overtaken by too many toys. Toys that are battery operated, have all the bells and whistles, yet they only serve one purpose. Perhaps you've reached the point where these toys are no longer being used and you've set up a toy decluttering roster. I bet you've said yes to at least one of these toy problems. Toys have become cheap playthings designed to entertain kids for short periods of time rather than engage kids for longer periods. They've also become just as disposable as many other items in our household. I've got some good news for you. On this episode, you'll hear from two highly experienced early childhood educators from Caves Beach Uniting Preschool. The Lakemak Preschool values sustainability, social justice and curiosity, which are at the heart of their practice and their relationships with children and each other. What I noticed when I spent time at the preschool is that there weren't any fancy-looking plastic battery-operated toys. The space was filled with natural materials which made it feel warm and inviting. It also felt very calm, considering there are 40 children there a day. It had a real lived-in feel to it, and the kids' imagination blossomed because of it. I know you're going to love hearing the stories from educators Michelle and Raquel, especially finding out how you can easily bring the preschool play elements into your family for a more sustainable way to play.
Hi, I'm Charlie. I'm Darcy. I am Amy. And I thought.
Do the Tiddalik story. Do you want to come over the Tiddalik? So tell me how Tiddalik, the story starts, because we've got lots of things here.
Do you remember what happens?
You don't drink all of it.
Drink all of it.
Because Tiddalik already.
What have you been using here? The glass beads as the water, the felt for the land and all these animals.
Water.
The water. And what's Tiddalik going to do? He's Tiddalik?
He turned to stone. He can't feel anything.
Oh. Why does he turn to stone?
Because he drank all of the water.
And he just has to stay there, doesn't he, forever?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm the director at Uniting Preschool Caves Beach here on the beautiful Awabakal country.
So, Michelle, it was really lovely to see the children retell the story of Tiddalik. Now, what I was surprised about is that wasn't actually the picture book.
Yeah, we like to use resources for children where children can interact with them and act out stories and retell them. So sometimes we'll do storytelling with objects as a way of sort of acknowledging the verbal history of the story with the Aboriginal background of that story. Also be able to involve more children and then for children to act those out. So we'll have, like in that situation, different coloured fabric or materials like, stones and rocks and things like that, as well as different sort of bowls and resources like the animals, the felt animals that go with it, so they can retell those things themselves. And
it was very interactive and no one child was the main storyteller. I did notice Emmy, she was pretending to be Tiddalik. She had all those blue marbles and she was gathering them up closest to her body. And as the story went on, then she would spit out those blue marbles back into the pond ready for the animals to actually drink.
Well, yeah, I think you can have a bit more drama when you have the actual resources that you can sort of use with your body and feel like part of the story yourself, and certainly takes on more of a impact, I think, in the story when you get to sort of, sometimes we'll use pieces of fabric and the fabric will come out everywhere as the water, or in that case we've sometimes used the stones for water in different stories as well. So
Yeah, I love that. Your whole preschool has a very natural feel to it. You've got lots of timber pieces, lots of retro pieces that have been
we repurposed a lot of
repurposed, and the legs have been shortened. That's suitable for 3 to 5 year olds at this preschool. Has a really lovely homey feel. How does that sort of link into how the children play?
I think we find that reusing things and having things that might be more like something you'd find at home, or something where there's timber and natural material, they're made of natural materials, that it has a warmer feel. So you're not using sort of pre-bought set up furniture. You're actually able to find things and repurpose them for, for sustainable reasons as well, but also to make sure that the environment is very individual and unique, and it reflects the history of our preschool and our community as well, and also where we are and the things that we find and the things that we are given. So we sort of try and keep that eclectic kind of thing and make our place a really individual space for children and families.
Not only does it have that amazing look, but it has that feel like, even as an adult, I just want to touch everything because it just looks so inviting. What's the importance of making your whole centre inviting to children?
Well, I think we want to welcome everybody in to be part of the service, and that, being there with all your senses. So that's sort of touching everything, and those natural materials really, like you said, you want to go and touch the wooden blocks or feel the materials, or there's things that have sounds, and we have plants that have smells and textures as well. So it's sort of thinking about all your senses when you're here, so that you're here with your whole body and your whole being, and being part of, completely in that moment when you're here. Our main priority is to have materials that the children can use with their own imaginations and their own creativity. So I think the resource within children and their ideas is the place to start with play. And sometimes it's actually about putting out materials and seeing what their ideas are and what they will use them for. So sometimes as adults we can put our own ideas onto something and think that it has to be a toy that does something in particular, but often it's actually the opposite. It's actually got more possibilities if you can have something that doesn't have an intended purpose, and that you can think of something that, we often put things out and go, oh, we didn't think that they would do that with it, but it's often a much more interesting idea than we thought would happen. So
I think a great example, or a couple of great examples of that, is the block area. That's been a stable play toy for early childhood services for decades. So what kind of things can happen from that perhaps adults don't even think about?
Yeah, the block area we find sometimes children are recreating things that they've had in the local community. So we've had children around here make the Swansea Bridge, for example, because they've explored sort of what ideas of structures and things are in our community and the things that they see in their everyday life. We've just added things into there at times like, pieces of material or off-cut plastics structures that people had that we put in there and we didn't know what they would do with them. We have things that they can make ramps and channels where they can use marbles and things like that. And so they're using the blocks to also create things that have a real investigative problem solving, a lot of that STEM science and tech things that are helping them to really learn in a hands-on way.
And that's all from just based on blocks of wood that as an adult, if you just saw that as a block of wood, you go, oh yeah, it's a block of wood. But you're actually describing something that is of greater value. There's something that's different that happens to it every single day.
Yeah. As I said from before, the idea of having things that don't have one purpose means that they can be made into lots of different ideas, and children playing together especially can really come together and cooperate and make all sorts of different things every day. Every day they can make something completely different.
From an adult perspective, some adults may walk in here and think, wow, do they just play with that same thing every single day? Don't they get bored?
I think having a variety of things in a variety of areas, you really cover a variety of interests for the children in particular. But I think the environment having all those possibilities, because we can't see all the possibilities that the children can think of. So every child is different and unique, and their ideas will come from all those different places from their experiences. We don't like to kind of assume anything, that wonder and awe for what's around them, that they will find things that, are not in our mind at all.
So it's not just about playing indoors that you can have all the fun at preschool. There's also the outdoors.
Do you guys want to come and have a look in the veggie patch? Let's see what veggies we can find growing here.
Carrots, growing tomatoes, edible flowers.
Very good, yes. This one here, can you guess what these leaves might belong to?
Snowy peas.
Hi, I'm Raquel. I'm one of the educators here. I've been here for about a bit over 6 years now. And one of the things that attracted me to this preschool was the natural environment and all the lovely feeling that you get when you walk in.
So we've walked from inside the preschool to outside through the big double doors. You've got lots of windows and we can see this beautiful natural environment. There's frog ponds. There's an area that's covered with plants. It's like a little hidey hole. There's a big playground area, veggie patch, chicken coop, sand pit. There's a whole raft of things, and even hiding in the garden are little native bees.
Yes.
This sounds like it's your passion, your playground.
You could say that. Outside of work, I'm very much trying to live sustainably. I also have a permaculture background as well, so been on a bit of a journey with that. And I also have a farm, so we're into regenerative organic farming and grow what I eat and try to capture my own energy and water and all of that kind of, fun, sustainable, the buzzword stuff. So when I go outside in the preschool, I try to use a lot of the stuff that I know and not teach, but kind of implement it with the preschool and in the program. And yeah, it seems to all come together and fall together in a beautiful little system. Everything that we have is interconnected in some kind of way, and there is a bigger picture, but the children kind of don't know that's what's happening. But the more they play, the more they learn, they understand that connectedness.
Let's start with the native bees, because it's one of those areas that I walked past where I wouldn't have noticed that there were bees in there until you actually pointed out their hive.
When I came to the preschool, they already had a native beehive, and being a beekeeper is part of what I do outside of preschool. That was a big attraction for me. I hadn't experienced native bees before, so I had to learn everything about it. So it was really, really exciting. So over the years, the more we've learnt. We did lose the bees one year and it was absolutely devastating because of the weather. So we try to make sure they're really well cared for in their little garden. So that's why they're in a bit of a hidey hole. So they've got all the plants overgrown, which are bee and butterfly attracting plants, to insulate them from the heat because they're very sensitive to the heat. So yeah, and they're quite beautiful. And, if it's a hot day or a cold day, because the bees will be out and we move them around depending on the weather. So at the moment we're going to come into the more warmer months. So we'll reassess that. So that beautiful alcove that you were talking about, that's surrounded by all the plants. So the children play in there, and we usually kind of pop them in there when it gets a bit warm, and then the children can observe them from the outside. And so just to keep them safe. Charlie, have you seen the bees over here?
Yes.
Have a look, because when I had a look before at the other bees, one of them was carrying a lot of pollen.
If they're really still, you might be lucky enough and one might land on you.
What if we get stung?
They don't sting, these bees. They're stingless bees. That's why all the flowers look so pretty in this garden, because they're all flowers that bees love.
Oh, so they're always getting out and pollinating.
Yes, they are. That's why we get so many mandarins in this tree.
I got a bee!
I've never seen native bees being so busy. It was just lovely to see. And you were even encouraging the children to put their hands close to where the bees were going in and out.
Yeah, so a lot of the things in the environment, like the bees or the chickens that we have, we really tried to allow the children to get really hands-on and be part of the environment, because I think as people we kind of forget that we are actually part of the environment. We are part of nature and we're not separate from it. So I think it's really important that children get that sense of that they are connected to the earth and they're connected to this space, and I suppose a natural connection rather than thinking, oh, that's a bee, or, and then they have more respect for those animals and those creatures.
So that even flows on to the chickens and getting the chickens out. They've got a little coop and they can be let out. during the day when the children are here at preschool. How do the chickens fit in with preschool?
Well, the chickens play a really important part of being part of the preschool. First of all, they produce eggs, which is really exciting. The children bring their lunches and they'll have like vegetable scraps and those scraps are sorted through at the end of lunch and they're a bit of a treat for the chickens. They explore around the garden and aerate the garden for us while they're looking for worms and bugs and it also teaches the children respect for the animals. Chook, 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 chook. I'm just opening up the chicken pen. We're just getting, these chickens are still relatively new, so over the last couple of weeks I've been pulling them out and giving them a pat, so getting them used to the children, patting them, talking about how they feel, because they're quite soft, they're silky chickens. So just getting them really comfortable in the environment.
Okay.
As you can see, he's like dropped down. That means he's getting used to being picked up.
Oh,
Does he
he's
still?
very soft.
It does feel very soft.
Shall I want a pat? Feel. Do we touch the golden one?
Okay, I think he's had it. Oh, she's had enough anyway. Here we go.
Touch the golden one.
This is ping pong. So all the children named the chickens. We wrote down all the names that the children suggested and we picked the top 3. So the golden one is ping pong. And what's the one that we just pat? What's its name, Innie?
Sprinkles.
Very good. We've had them for about a term now, so they're it's now that I feel comfortable enough to take them out and get the children to sit, and then I invite them to come and pat them. And then the other day I couldn't even get the chicken off my lap. It was just like, oh, I'm so relaxed and I feel safe. And it's about the children understanding how when they're not feeling safe and how they can make the chickens feel safe. So it's kind of that respect, like not chasing the chickens. Or we were talking about the safety of the chickens and one was running around and then a child came running straight past and I said to the children, I said, oh no, that chicken, it's really upset. Why is it running away? And it's because it got scared. So it was really kind of connecting their own thoughts and feelings with the animals and then making that connection between the two.
Absolutely imperative when we look at everyday living with sustainability, that connection between nature, understanding how nature works and respecting that, having resilient chickens, having resilient children and helping children understand what that resilience and comfort means.
Yeah.
You've got 39 children here a day and those chickens, you have to venture further out of their comfort zones, don't they, to explore the garden a bit more.
So I think we're building trust with each other. We're working on it. It's a slow process, but we get there in the end.
So from our spot here at the chickens, I can see a frog pond.
Yes, it's a bit of an old bathtub, and in there we've actually got little guppies, like little mosquito fish. So it's not going to be a breeding ground for mozzies, so the kids aren't going to get bitten by mozzies. But so the little fish in there live on the mosquito larvae, and we have a old screen that's over the top to keep it safe, and it's padlocked. The little fish in there are quite happy. We don't have to do anything. The rainwater collects in that tub, and the children really love collecting sticks. So they go and collect sticks in the garden and then they take it into collage and ask the educators for a bit of string and they want to make a fishing rod. So we help them tie on a bit of, wool or whatever might be laying around, and then they go and find a stone, which is the sinker. And it's a really big thing. So we get a big collection of children. They sit there around the edge of the pond and they go fishing. And they're just so content. It's almost like mindfulness in a sense. People just go out and go fishing and it's just, they can sit there for hours and they just keep revisiting it. They get the little fishing rods. It's so creative and so gorgeous.
Do they have a yarn at the same time and a bit of storytelling?
Yeah, I got a big one and let them go with that. But and if they're really, really lucky, we'll get a resident blue tongue come out of the garden and have a bit of a drink and then off you go again.
Beautiful.
Yeah, a lot of the children actually had never seen a blue tongue lizard before, which I found surprising. So we had a lot of children go, oh, they freaked out. One child in particular had never seen one and thought it was a toy. Well,
they were surprised.
They were very surprised, especially when she went to go pick it up.
Oh, no.
We learnt a lot about blue-tongue lizards that day. Yeah.
So many animals, so much wildlife. What about your bird life here as well?
Oh, we're actually really, really lucky where we are. We've got the eagle. Well, there's probably more than one, but we've identified it's almost like a preschool totem, I think you'd say. And the children get really excited to see the eagle circling. I think it was a couple of years back we were lucky enough to see the eagle actually catch some food, another bird, and it sat in the tree up near where the digging patch is, and it ate it. It was really cool. The children just loved it. So we get lots of minor birds. We get your rainbow lorikeets. We've got the beautiful tawny frogmouths. They're little babies every single year, and they're just adorable. And they come and sit in the tree, and the children look for the little whichever tree they're going to be in.
So there's so much for children to look at. They're not just here to just play with toys. They're here to experience the natural environment and what's around you at preschool.
Yeah.
Now, all of this, like when I look out here, the yard looks beautiful, but how is this possible to do at home in our own backyard?
Well, it depends if you have a backyard, I suppose. Children live in all different types of environments, so you don't really, I suppose, have to have a backyard. You might just start with a plant. Might be something as simple as that. A little indoor plant, see if you can get that growing, or maybe a tomato plant. Yeah, that could just be children just understanding how things are grown, and that appreciation and that care for nature is really important. So it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be major because I know most of us kill house plants and things like that. So it just could be something really, really simple.
And also from what you were saying before, I think it's important for children to be a part of that. So they're a part of being with the chickens. They're a part of being with the veggie garden and the native bees.
Yeah, so that, I suppose that interconnectedness, so knowing that they're part of the earth and part of nature as well. So maybe just going out on a bushwalk doesn't have to cost money. You can just be like on the weekend, go for a bushwalk, go on a treasure hunt, go and see what sticks can we find, what unusual plants can we find, what flowers. So really, really get the children to be observant of what they see. And, oh, look, there's a little nest, and you never know what they might find. And it actually gets a little bit exciting. I like it in March when you get to go look for the little fungi. When my kids were little, we used to go fungi hunting, and I'd pretend that they were little fairies or pixies, and I'd get them to use their imaginations and pretend what they'd see. And then we'd come back we might find a feather or a stone, or if we're down at the beach, we'd come back and we used to have a little wooden bowl, and it used to sit on the hall table when we walked in, and that's where we used to put our little treasures.
And going with the bushwalk idea, we were talking earlier about a scavenger hunt possibility, getting the children to actually write their scavenger hunt before you go out on the bushwalk to say, what would you like to find today?
Yeah.
What do you want to find? Could it be an eagle, a fish, a leaf, or a special type of leaf? Does it need to be a red-coloured leaf or a curly leaf? Something that's really special to them.
I think that's a great idea. I think we're starting simple and then going and seeing what you see in the environment. So teaching them how to be observant and then extend on that and then go, oh, I wonder what we'll find today. So they get really excited to want to go out and do it again.
Thank you for creating so much awe and wonder and living that with the children every single day. And it just goes to show that we can all live sustainably a little bit, one bit at a time.
Yeah.
And when one person's passion or influence can have a greater impact on other people because they can see it in action.
Yes, well, that's right. I don't think it is a lot to live sustainably if you just do one thing, I suppose.
Your preschool is in Caves Beach on the southern side of Lake Macquarie, New South Wales. How important is place to your preschool?
Place is extremely important to us. We have this connection to the environment. We've got the beach, we've got the lake, we've got the bush, we've got all of these beautiful elements. And a big part of our, I suppose, our philosophy and a part of our preschool culture is teaching children about the First Nations people, so the Awabakal people that were here, and creating that connectedness, because I think it's about looking after the land as well. We try to teach them local stories, local language, but kind of interconnected and woven into so it's embedded in everything we do. So like traditional weaving practices. So that's also something that's been really, really big within our preschool. We've made a possum skin blanket, which is really exciting that we've done. Children have really, really connected with culture in that way. The children have ownership over this because they've drawn the pictures on there, and that's got all their beautiful things that they love about the preschool. We've got the eagle at the top, we've got the swing, we've got the bees, the garden, Yeah, the chickens. So the children have created all these beautiful images that they've made this all themselves. So we like to have it out in the morning. So we use that as part of our acknowledgement to country every day. So the children can connect. So they connect with country, they connect with the images that make this place, this preschool, very special to them. So it's really meaningful.
Here's the land, here's the sky, here are the people, and here am I.
Hey, Michelle, what an amazing place to work where you're surrounded by children who are filling themselves with wonder and awe in everything that they do. How do you do that as an adult and take that away for, what you do in your everyday here at work and even at your home?
Part of our philosophy is really thinking about what's important to us. So for all the educators that work here, that's something we talk about a lot. What are our values? What do we care about? And I think as a whole team, we've really come together to look at our values as being around nature and sustainability and looking after the environment, looking after living creatures, looking after the land that we're on, looking after each other and the children and families. And that is not just, work and home are different places, but, you bring yourself when you come to work, and those values that you have at home are the same that you can have in your workplace. And we actually value that what people value in their home life is also what they bring along to work. We share our lives outside of that, whether we like to go to the beach or we like to go for walks or we like to play with our dogs at home or whatever those things are, we bring those with us to share.
That really just shows the interconnectedness of our own personal values to what our work values are and how that shows in the work environment, which just happens to be in a preschool and you're with young children every single day. Do families notice that as well? And why do families choose to come to your service?
I think when families come for the first tour, some of them have heard that, we have a really warm and welcoming preschool. And I think often when they come, they're really struck by the environment. And, there is no fancy equipment in particular, but it's just that very engaging place. I think they see the engagement of the children in the play when they're here and how settled that they are as well. So they really notice that the children are engaged and playing with the environment, with each other, and also that the educators, are really settled in the environment and really feel part of it. And educators often like to talk to people about our preschool and share the things that we're doing with the families when they come to visit.
So symbiotic, isn't it? Which is how we all need to live sustainably, is to be working in conjunction with each other and working within nature as well. So you've got a really lovely environment here. Feels very peaceful and relaxed. How can, as a family, I bring something like that into our home?
I think, for a start, you're thinking about what you already have in your home that you can use and maybe set up. Could be a box, a shelf, a basket, or a little area, or even, your children already have a play shelf or a play, area where you could just think about what you've already got, whether that be, timber offcuts from something that happened on the weekend, some bits of PVC pipe. There's so many different ways you can just reuse those things. Everyone often talks about a cardboard box, but it has always got plenty of possibilities with the cardboard box, and maybe just adding some things with that. So it could be fabric offcuts or clothes that aren't repurposed for other things. You can cut them up to use as fabric for use with dolls or things like that. So it's about looking at what you already have. And then I think other than that, if you're looking at lots of options where you can source from reused places, reverse garbage, collecting natural play materials that you might find, leaves in the backyard. We'll often use sort of sticks and wool and things like that we just have around to create butterfly wings or magic wands, so there's no need to go and buy, lots of things, but it's about, so I think sometimes setting things up in a different way at home. If you've got some baby dolls, some animals, some trains, some trucks, you can put them out with some natural things or some bits of fabric or a few boxes and see what happens from there.
There's some really great ideas and things that you can find around your home. And I also find that things in multiples of, so not just a one-off, but if it's multiples of, it creates a lot more invitation to explore with their imagination. Can you tell us more about children's imagination? It's a big one, isn't it? It's a whole big world out there, that imagination. But tell us more about the value of imagination in children's play.
We're all born with lots of imagination and creative ideas. And I think in play, when children are young, They're, looking at the world around them. They're using their own ideas and through the play, they use their imagination to communicate those ideas, to translate them into different ways of acting things out. So what that does in play, when children use their imagination, they're actually in charge of what's going on. So they're able to make a whole new play story where they're in charge. Children aren't always in charge of lots of things in their life, so it really gives them that sense of ownership and enjoyment in being in charge of things. When they're in that imaginative phase, they're also in that sort of the state of flow, people say, where they're really in the moment and really being. And I think for brain development and growing, they're really building a lot of abstract concepts that are really going to build on foundations for the future. So imagination actually allows children to build concepts around things that will become literacy and numeracy concepts down the track, but also just, acting out things that they see in life is a really important way for children to be able to explore ideas and play a role and see, well, what was it like to be the driver of the train? Or what was it like to be, a parent putting a child to bed? Or, all those things that they like to try out and really feel.
Often we're surrounded by busyness and life in the fast lane. And when you look at your preschool, it's amazingly slow. You've got everything here. But how can we actually help to slow that down? Do we have to be with our children 100% of the time in order for them to do this imaginative play?
It's always a tricky balance. Everyone's got so much going on. And I think the main thing is just to try and do some things with your children when you can. And I think the main thing is about being present and in the moment. So if you're going to play with your children, have some time and be there and follow their ideas. Play really allows children to take the lead. So I think if you make that little bit of time, you'll find that the children may engage in play independently after that for a while on their own. But I think there's certainly times where devices are great and there's so much great technology that we can use for so many things. But I think, having an area or some special resources that you have that aren't fancy things, that might be, some ribbon and some blocks or some cars and some big pieces of paper and some textures, and having those things that you can get out just for a short time. Children will often play independently if they've got open-ended materials. They don't always need an adult there to be doing that. And if children are doing that from a young age, they'll actually build that independent skill to be able to play by themselves and follow their own ideas, because the adult's not always telling them what to do. And the toys don't, if they're open-ended toys, the toy doesn't tell them what to do. So the children will build and build on that creativity and imagination and have more capacity to do that. And I think through that kind of play, it's really important because they often encounter problems. If you're building something or trying to make something, it may not always work out. So you're actually building a little bit of resilience when things don't go well and you have to keep trying, And, there are things that may need a bit of help from an adult along the way, but just that sort of skill for life is great. We all need to keep building those skills. We all have the days where we need a bit more persistence and a bit more resilience. And I think, when things don't go right, it's good to try it out when you're, making something as a child or building something or, rather than waiting till we're all grown up and something goes wrong and it makes it quite hard.
I mean, your story just then reminded me of the fact that I have 2 teenagers, and when they were very young, it felt hard to stop and just slow down and put the phone down for at least 5 minutes to start with, or 10 minutes, because that 5-10 minutes seemed like an eternity as a parent. But it did everything that you're just saying. It just meant that I was spending that time with my child, helping him through with the open-ended, like I'd set up the paint at home or the Play-Doh. And it did actually help, because the more I did that and actually stopped for that 5 to 10 minutes to be with him, I found that built up his repertoire of play so that he was playing by himself to up to an hour or so. And that was like when he was 5-6 years of age. So I think that what you're saying just did remind me of that, pulled out that story in the back of my head.
I think actually what it also does, if you're saying to your child, I'm going to come and I'm going to do this, then I'm going to come and we'll play, and you play together and you're really in the moment with them, that sort of really fills up their cup. Like you're really building a connection. You're building those really important trusting connections where you might be following their lead, you might be looking for their ideas and, really listening to your child, because it is hard. There's a lot of competing priorities where if you can sort of, turn the phones on silent and say, for half an hour, I'm going to do this.
Giving a little bit of a time frame to it, isn't it? And as you said, like building connections is so important, because not only do we need that with our children, but we need that with each other to make community work, to make our everyday living and lifestyle work really, really well.
Yeah. And I think as at our preschool, and I think in our own lives as educators, we've realised the importance of connections in general and building that for everyone, putting that as a priority for your family, to have time where you do really just build connections with each other, for children to learn how to interact, how to take turns, or that someone's really listening to me, that they feel important. We all know what it's like when someone's really listening to you, how good that feels. And I think to make sure your children get that some of the time, you don't have to be, you can't always listen 100% all of the time, and that's fine. You don't have to be there's no sort of perfect parent. There's nothing like that exists in the world. And I think those building relationships and connections, the parents are the children's first person that they have that with. So they learn to do that. And as they grow up, hopefully they'll become great humans that are, kind and listening to each other and being able to, have that sense of fairness in the world. And that's, another form of sustainability, is looking after each other in the world, and it starts with our, our families and moves out to our community. So I think at our preschool, we like to sort of do that, really prioritise families and children and look at our community as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It is all about that. I like how you've just summarised everything there about slowing down has so much value to connections, community, imagination, critical thinking as well. Yeah, it's really important in how we live sustainably.
I like seeing children and educators learning together, and I really like to keep curiosity alive for everybody. I think it's really important for everyone to have curiosity. So, that's really special for children to be able to think about the world and wonder about what's around them. I think working with educators and our team, I think that's something we've worked on as well. But I think as a personal thing outside of my day job, that's also something I like to do. Got all your things? Well, thanks for coming to play today.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you, kids.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the ReNewy Living podcast. I hope you're feeling more confident about taking a localised and actionable approach to living sustainably. If this episode has inspired you to take simple action, please follow the ReNewy Living podcast so you can catch every episode. We'd love it if you could share this episode with your friends. It's a great way to spread the word and help more people join the conversation about living sustainably. You can even send me an email with the episode that really made it for you. Hearing your positive actions for change helps me understand how these stories work within our shared communities. Head over to my website, renewyliving.com.au, for the show notes and blog posts from this episode. I look forward to sharing more stories from the people of Newcastle as we delve into our community's diverse social and environmental practices for positive planetary change from a localised perspective.